So this is intro to plans. So first is, what is a plan? A plan is the AF position in policy debate. It's what the AF defends. Usually this comes in the form of a subset of the resolution. So it specifies a part of the resolution that the AF team would defend. There are cases where the AF will just defend the whole resolution, but that's significantly less common. This is because plans allow the AF to delink core neg disads and are incredibly strategic because of this. They take away a lot of the neg ground that the negatives usually would be able to read against an AF that defended the whole resolution. For example, an AF that specifies a part of resolution suddenly no longer links to disads and counterplans that would apply to the whole resolution, or would also apply to parts of the resolution that the AF doesn't defend, which means that the AF is able to pin down exactly what the negative can read against them, which would be significantly less than the whole resolution, and allows the AF to rigorously prep out those specific positions. It also just gives them a massive prep advantage because they know the plan better than the negative does. So stock issues. Stock issues are things in policy debate that the AF needs to fulfill essentially in order to win. There's 5 things. First is inherency. Inherency is an argument about why the harms presented will not be solved in the status quo, or will not be resolved in the status quo. There's a couple types, things like structural inherency, attitudinal inherency. Structural inherency is essentially an argument that says something like a law is currently in place that stops the plan from being passed. Attitudinal inherency is just like the attitudes of people will are against the plan right now. These aren't super important. The app just needs to have inherency. The next is harms. Harms are essentially just reasons why without the plan being passed, like some harm will arise, something bad will happen. And then there's significance, which is incredibly similar to harm and not very important. It just says that the harms being presented are significant or bad. Solvency is an argument about why the plan is able to resolve those harms or solve those harms. The plan being passed would result in some shift, something that happens from the status quo that stops those harms from manifesting. Then the last one is topicality. Topicality is an argument that the plan presented or the policy presented is within the bounds of the resolution. So usually the parts of a plan are the plan text, the advantage, and solvency. The plan text includes the advocacy statement, exactly what the AF defends. The next is the advantage, which usually includes the bulk of the stock issues: inherency, harms, and significance. It tells us these issues that are going to happen in the status quo, essentially why they won't be solved, and then why they are bad. Solvency is just the solvency section. There might be an argument about why the AF is topical in the solvency section, but usually not. It's just the reason that the plan solves the harms that it presents. An example would be the space leasing AF on the Jan-Feb topic of 2022, I guess. So as you can see on the left in the navigation bar, first is the plan text. Next is advantage 1, advantage 2, a solvency section, and then just framework, but that's not super important. So first is the plan text, which is that states should prohibit private in situ property in outer space by establishing an outer space leasing regime through the Committee on Peaceful Use of Outer Space. This is a little bit different than normal plans, but it is like essentially still the same. This argument is that instead of the whole resolution, which was that private entities appropriating outer space should be banned, it specified a method in which that would happen, which was through a creation of a leasing regime that the UN essentially made, which is like, yeah, this is like a UN committee. So the first advantage, this very first Pershing 19 evidence establishes inherency. It says that currently states interpret like Article 2, which is the article in the OSC, which is the Outer Space Treaty, that says that private appropriation of outer space is bad. And like private companies right now are going to appropriate space. And that sort of shift into in situ property, which is essentially just real property, will destroy the OSC because private companies going to appropriate space and going to appropriate like specific like property in space counteracts and goes against what the OSC says, which moots the sort of significance of the OSC within legal frameworks around the world. That's the inherency. It says that the status quo is currently going to cause like this thing to happen. And then the next card is going to say why this thing happening is bad. It says like property conflict in space is bad, causes things like war. And then it goes into an argument, but also an argument about why a shift away from the OSC also causes like these bad impacts, things like conflict. And the terminal impact is nuclear war. The second advantage is about um, sort of equal access. The argument is that allowing a space leasing system allows countries to more equitably share access to space. This is good because it causes things like sustainable development, which solves a litany of issues, and those issues cause extinction. The next section is solvency. The solvency section sort of lays out exactly how and why the plan solves these two advantages. So this first Pershing evidence says that the plan like allows the OST to continue existing and still allow sort of appropriation or not appropriation of space, but still allow usage of outer space and also creates equitable access because the leasing system is able to share resources of space equally between countries. The next argument is another solvency argument about how the plan ensures that this leasing system arises quickly and also just sort of certainly. And yeah, that's just the parts of a plan.